What is going on, everybody? My name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss Channel. Thank you all for tuning in. I have a special guest today. He's been on here. He's been on here quite a few times. But we have Mr. Tony Lindsay in the building, writer, director of Where Hearts Lie, a film that he wrote, produced, and directed a few years back. But it looks like it's finally getting its just due. Tony, how are you tonight?
Hey, how you doing, brother? I'm good, thank you.
Hey, that's awesome, man. So Where Hearts Lie, it's getting a special screening on Fox Soul December 18th. So we got a little bit over a week left before it gets that special screening on Fox. So just Tony, how does it feel to have your movie getting put in a spotlight that maybe it didn't get that kind of spotlight some years ago when you first aired the movie, but now to finally getting its just due and its just recognition?
Well, yeah, I mean, it feels great. I'm really happy to get into this partnership with Fox Soul. I did previously release the movie, on certain streaming platforms, but it was with like another distribution company. I didn't really like the terms of that deal, so I
Mhm.
kind of held the movie in my pocket, so to speak, until I got into a better situation, and I really feel comfortable with Fox Soul. So I'm happy that we're getting ready to do this.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Tony. Now, for those who haven't seen the movie, we'll show a teaser of the movie later, but just describe to me what the movie's about and what kind of led you to writing this type of film.
All right, I'll say Where Hearts Lie is a story about how terribly wrong things can go when you keep trying to make things work with the wrong person. Like how, like with the guys, we like a big butt and a smile, and
Yeah.
sometimes the lady, they'll see a guy, he got the hazel eyes, he has a nice car, he has some money. We've become very superficial and shallow and materialistic in our expectations in a partner. And I don't think we look deep enough into the things that really matter, like compassion and character and ambition. So
Mhm.
I really use this movie as an opportunity to kind of address those things, because I was kind of disturbed by the state of our relationships, as you see from a lot of our conversations on this platform.
Mhm.
So yeah, and it also touches on issues like child abuse, which we don't talk enough about, um in publicly, and also undiagnosed mental illness and Alzheimer's disease.
Mm. Yeah, no, I watched the movie. Tony was gracious enough to let me see the movie, and it like you said, it covers topics that just normally aren't talked about as far as black people in Hollywood or black people in movies or black people in film. A lot of times in black film, you get kind of the same stuff, right? You get
Yeah.
your drug dealing type films or movie shows, TV shows. You get your the the magical Negro type movies, TV
Yeah.
shows, and things like that. But this kind of it was transcendent, and I really loved the way it was done, especially not being backed or supported or funded by big Hollywood or big Warner Brothers or whoever. I really appreciate that. Tony, I want to ask you what got you into film. Like, was this your first major piece of film? What kind of got you into that, and what led to the creation of this movie?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I've always been a creative. I actually started in the music industry, producing and writing. I was actually in the singing group back in the days, but that's ancient history. But I've always been very artistic, and I love writing. And I was actually in the process of writing a book that was pretty much based on my own life. And a friend of mine, she's a producer for a television show, and she took a little peek at it, and she was like, wow, you need to like write a script. You need to transform this into a script. So I did it, and like this is my first foray into film, and I'm really proud of the way that it came out, because I mean, I directed it, I wrote it, and I executive produced it. I mean, I spent all the money came out of my own pocket to film this, and it was very expensive. So I really invested a lot into it, and I think you all are gonna love it. You're not gonna look at this film and say this is like a first time filmmaker. Trust me.
No, yeah, you're right about that. Watching the movie, it was definitely well put together, well organized, well shot, edited,
Thank you.
everything. Like whoever you got to help you out on this, the team that you put together, and it had some notable actors. And we're talking about Malik Yoba, who's a veteran actor in this industry, Clifton Powell, who is a veteran actor in this industry.
Yeah.
Just Tony, for someone who hadn't been in the film industry, how were you able to make some of those connections and pull some of those strings to get some heavyweights in your film?
Tenacity and maintaining good relationships. Malik Yoba, he lives in Brooklyn, and we have a lot of people in common. Clifton, I have a friend that used to work with him, and that was kind of like a Hail Mary shot. And what's funny is the character, the main character, his name is Brave Williams, and his father is played by Clifton Powell. And I literally wrote that part for Clifton Powell. Like a
Wow.
friend of mine, when I was first writing the script, my script editor, she was like, listen, when you write this, I mean, this is before we cast the movie. And she was like, write this part like for whoever it is you see as being the person to play it. Like whether you think you can get them or not, just write it for that person.
Mhm.
And I had Clifton Powell in mind, and look at that. I wound up getting him in the film.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Tony. Once again, we're talking to Tony Lindsay, the director, writer, and executive producer of Where Hearts Lie. It's getting a screening on Fox Soul on December 18th. What time, Tony? What time on December 18th?
I believe it's going to air at 12 p.m. And by the way, my movie is going to be the first feature film that is going to debut off of that platform. So like this is a
Mm.
really big deal for me, and we're all excited about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Tony. I want to dive into the film a little bit, and then we'll show the trailer. In
Mhm.
this film, you talked about how it touches on mental health, child abuse, and even dementia. Just were those things? I mean, you talked about this kind of derived from a book that you were writing about yourself, but what was the importance about putting those specific things, elements to the movie inside the movie? Why was it so important to add like a child abuse aspect along with the relationship aspect and even mental health aspect into this really great film?
Well, I think the main uh, thing about that is the representation. I think that what we see in movies nowadays is pretty much the same old thing. It's a very flattened depiction of not even just black life, well, specifically black life though, when it comes to certain issues. Yeah. So I will say that. And like there were so many elements in the film that I wanted to relay because I felt that my experiences were just not being reflected in film. And this is something that I've talked about a lot with a lot of people. And
Mhm.
so there was a large basis from I did take some elements from my own life in the
Mm.
film, like being an entrepreneur, a real estate entrepreneur is that's brave, and I am as well. uh the single father aspect was very important to me, not even just the single father aspect, but just the representation of a black father. I am a father. I have 4 children, and I am a present father in my kids' lives. So I just felt like that representation is not really seen. We don't see that anymore. I don't even know if we actually really ever saw it. When we saw it like in shows like Good Times, they killed off the father quick.
Yeah, yeah.
We had it with the Cosby Show, but that's gone.
Yeah.
So I thought it was important to show certain elements like a full family structure, like not to disparage or to say that there's anything wrong with single parent households or you know, but I don't see a full black family represented anymore in film. I don't see a black mother and a black father raising black children together. I don't Not only do I not see that often in Hollywood, but I don't see it in media. I don't see it in just advertising, news media. I don't really see that. So I just thought it was very important to give that representation. And when it comes to like the issues like mental illness, I think that's something that we don't talk about enough in the black community because we live in a recurrent state of PTSD in this country.
Mhm.
And We have a lot of trust issues, you know, with this government, with amongst ourselves. And so I think there's a lot of undiagnosed mental illness that, you know, we have not dealt with. And lastly, you know, with Alzheimer's disease and dementia, you know, my mother had dementia. She passed away from dementia, and that's something that really hits very close to me. I think the last statistic they did, like 121,000 people died in 1 year. I think it was 2019, which is when they did the last study. They died from Alzheimer's. And Black people they have the highest representation of Alzheimer's and dementia out of any other demographic. And in
Wow, I
some
didn't know
cases,
that.
yeah, and in some cases almost twice as much. So these are like very important issues that I think we need to talk about and discuss. And child abuse, which you know, that's taboo, you know, when
Yeah.
it's time to talk about that.
Yeah. No, Tony, you hit on some great pieces. Once again, we're talking to Tony Lindsay, the writer, director, and executive producer of Where Hearts Lie. Will debut on Fox Soul on December 18th. Be sure to go over and check that out. Now, Tony, you spoke about a lot of things. I'm going to play the trailer now. I want to run that to show everyone, and then we'll get into we'll ask some more questions and go from there. Let's go ahead and do that.
She's a nice girl. I got a bad feeling about this one.
Semantics. The fact of the matter remains, this is a dangerous man.
So that is the teaser. That is the teaser. That if that doesn't tell you anything, that tells you a little bit. It was a lot going on in that teaser. Yeah. It was a whole lot. Oh my goodness, Tony! It was. I saw a kid in the middle of the street in front of a
that
car.
was my son, actually. My son, my son got his acting debut in this film. So like my directorial debut and was directing my own son.
Talk about that. How cool was that to have, you know, your son, your first movie ever? It's about a single father essentially raising his son, and to have your son in the film. What was that like for you?
Man, that was a dream come true. Especially because he's so good. Like he's so talented. Like he was off book the whole time, meaning like he didn't need to like read his lines and you know, to prep. Like honestly, my son wrote like half of his lines anyway for the film. Like he was really into this the whole process. So it felt good to be working with my son on something that I'm passionate about, and to see that he's passionate about it. And now, you know, he's a full-fledged actor now. He's pursuing the dream. Wow. So like, man,
give it up for him, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome to hear. Tony, so just staying on the film and staying on this opportunity that you've gotten, this partnership that you have with Fox to play your film. But your film, you know, first aired 5 years ago. What was that like? You know, basically having to sit on your work, something that you put your time, you know, money, capital, everything into, and then essentially have to sit on this movie for 5 years and to finally get an opportunity like this. Just what was the last 5 years like, knowing that you had this work that the world really hadn't gotten a chance to see, and now they get a chance to see it now?
That's a good question. I really like that question. There's this thing, like, it's a saying, like it's in the entertainment industry, whether it's the music industry, the film industry. It's like on the way in, like when you walk in the door, you got to decide if you're going to get it with grease or without, right? And I knew, you know, going into this as an independent filmmaker, first time filmmaker, that, you know, it's a difficult process, especially when, you know, to get a project picked up. So I fully funded everything, and I had to, you know, I signed a deal with a distribution company. It wasn't the greatest. It wasn't really a great deal at all. I don't want to really name names or anything like that. But I did it knowing that the movie probably was not going to be promoted well, they weren't going to invest much into it, because typically first-time filmmakers, when their movie comes out, they don't even get a dime. I mean, that's the unfortunate truth of it. They really don't get any money. So this whole day and age of streaming platforms and stuff like that, it's like a godsend for independent filmmakers, and it facilitates, so much more content. But when I signed this deal, it wasn't the greatest deal. I knew it wasn't the greatest deal, but I did it in order to get the movie out there. And I did it knowing that once it built up some type of exposure, that I'd be ready for the next step. So I kind of sat, patiently, and when the contract was up, that's when I decided to go full force with the film, because most of these deals, when you first come into the industry, they're pretty much taking all your money. So it's like, are you gonna like go super hard and to make money for somebody else, or are you gonna just do what you got to do until it's your time? And right now it's my time.
Now, how important is that independence for you or for someone that is making film? I mean, you could have probably shopped this around and gotten it picked up by, a big time movie producer or whatever in Hollywood or Netflix or whatever. But this movie is 100% yours now. Just how important is having that independence for you?
That's very important. But I mean, I'm an entrepreneur anyway. So, I've had my own business for years. Like, I haven't worked for anybody since like 1996. So I understand what it means to be self-sustaining and to, generate your own income. I believe in financial independence. So I take that approach in pretty much everything that I do. So, one thing I did not want to do, I didn't want to use like other people's money, but that might just be something in me, because I don't like playing with other people's money. Like, and I think it's also easier, even, look forward thinking, it's easier to get people to invest in your dream or in your work if you're just as willing to invest in it yourself. So I was all in. Not too many people are going to take their own money out their own pocket on this dream of just, putting a movie out, but you believe in yourself. You don't allow people to talk you out of your dream, and make it happen. And I made it happen, and I'm excited about the things to come. I'm working on some other projects, and I'm really excited, man. Really
That's
excited.
awesome. That's awesome. Once again, we're talking to Tony Lindsay, the writer, director, and executive producer of Where Hearts Lie. It's getting a debut on Fox Soul on December 18th. Be sure to check that out. That is Where Hearts Lie, debuting on Fox Soul December 18th. Now, Tony, in the movie, you touched on it a bit, but you talked about it. It talks about child abuse and childhood trauma. Now, there's a nice, well, I'm not gonna say a nice twist, but a surprising twist at the end of the movie. And it kind of tells you, it kind of puts everything into perspective.
Right.
It puts everything into perspective throughout the duration of the movie. Because I mean, throughout the duration of the movie, you're just like, what? Why are things going this way?
Right.
But at the very end, you get
don't
that
give
twist.
away too much. Right.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna tell it, but you get that twist that's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. What about that childhood trauma, that early childhood trauma, what takes place for a child, how it affects them the rest of their life? Why was that so important to feature in your film?
Because we don't talk about it enough, and we don't really identify these things. And it's not even just childhood trauma. Like, well, let me explain. I think that the things that we experience during our development, we carry that with us through the rest of our lives. So whereas you will see how trauma can start at an early age, and it can pretty much guide the direction of a person's life, you can also see how positive role models and positive experiences and relationships also mold a person and can steer them in the right direction.
Yes.
And that's exemplified in the relationship that Brave has with his father. I mean, his father is nonverbal for like pretty much the whole movie, but he had such a powerful impact on his son's life. And I thought it was so important to show the impact and influence that and leadership that Black men do have, and they display in their families and in their relationships, especially as it pertains to their children. Because if you look, if you didn't know any better, you think that Black men are just not present at all in the lives of their children, and that's just not the case. In
At all.
fact, we're actually the most represented in the lives of our children, including when not in a relationship with the mother. So I mean, it's not always ideal, I guess, with two parents living in separate homes, but we can't just erase fathers from the picture if they're not living at home with the child, because there are many fathers who are active in the lives of their child, in some cases more so active than the mother, even when the child lives with the mother. So we really need to start talking about those things and just rewrite the whole narrative on Black relationships and Black men and the roles that they play in the lives of their children.
Yeah, Tony, you're absolutely right, because like especially in media, it's most important through media because the reality is what you just said, but what the representation is a totally different thing. What you see, whether it's the news, what you see on TV, what you see in film, does not represent. It doesn't add up to what you just said. Like you said, I think statistically, Black men are the most involved with their children out of any parent demographic, but if you watch the news or the media, it doesn't tell that story. It doesn't tell that story. Did you have something?
And what's funny about that is when I sent out the script to Clifton. Okay, first of all, listen, I really like, we sent the script out. We reached out to management, whoever we could. We went on IMDb and we're like, please, can we just find this man? We couldn't find Clifton Powell. Like, we got no answer. It was almost time to start shooting, and at the last minute, I get a call from Clifton Powell. He loves the script and he wants to do it. And when he got to New York, like, first of all, I'm gonna tell you that brother is a cool brother. Like, Clifton Powell is probably the coolest cat that you ever meet in Hollywood. And we talked for a long time. You would think that we went to like school together or something, but he told me that when he read the script, he related to it so much, and it jumped out at him that he said that he just had to do it. He just had to do it, no matter like what the money was, because it resonated with him. And what's funny, what's interesting is, over at Fox Soul, I had a little conversation with the president over there, and he pretty much said the same thing, that he really loved the representation in the film, which is not the typical depictions that you see of Black men. So, I think that's something that resonates with us, and not just with Black men. It resonates with the whole Black community.
Absolutely.
And when on the day when we premiered the film, because we did our movie premiere was in a movie theater, was an AMC theater in New York City, and we packed 2 theaters. Like, it was just too big for one theater, so we packed 2 theaters. And after that movie, first of all, the greatest feeling is just sitting there and just watching the reaction. Like, I'm editing the film, I'm doing this, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny part right there. But when you're sitting in the audience and you see people laughing at that part, or you see people crying at certain parts, man, there's no better feeling than that. And after the movie was done, so many people approached me to talk to me about their own personal life experiences and how it related to them in the film. So I know that this film touches people on a deeper level, and it inspires me more to do more of this work, which is actually why I'm doing a campaign to just pretty much revolutionize the film industry and rewrite the representation that we've currently seen so far.
Yeah, like as Tony mentioned, he's got a fundraiser, impacting change through filmmaking. You can go to Facebook and donate right here to the fundraiser. Now, Tony, I'm going to ask you, as we have this pulled up, what exactly are the people donating to? What exactly can they expect from you and your team moving forward?
Yeah, well, as you know, like, Where Hearts Lie, I fully funded that project, came out of my pocket 100%. And the fact is, you know, filmmaking is a very expensive endeavor. And, you know, I'm all in no matter what. So what I decided to do was, you know, just put together a fundraiser, you know, just to take any type of donations, whatever. I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's $100, $1,000, whatever it is. But the mission is to revolutionize this film industry by starting a new film company, one that will be dedicated to providing real stories, like stories that we don't typically see in Hollywood. You know, back in the days when you could go to a movie and it was just like a good story. It didn't have to be like a super action flick or whatever, even though those are cool. But
Yeah.
we don't have good storytelling anymore. And we have so many amazing stories that are just not being told. And I want to, you know, change the representation that we often see, because you know, it's the flattening that we were talking about before, the flattening of the representation, specifically of the Black community. We need better, and we're not going to get that from the larger entities in Hollywood. So, you know, I'm all about community building. I'm all about institution building. And I want to build something that I can provide the right type of product, the right type of imagery, and the right type of impact for our people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And once again, you can go to Impacting Change Through Filmmaking on Facebook. That's Impacting Change Through Filmmaking. That's Tony Lindsay and his team getting ready to put more real. And see, that's the thing I loved about Where Hearts Lie, because it was so realistic. It was super, and that's why so many people reached out to you after your initial showing, because, like you said, someone either you have in your family or been affected by someone with dementia or some sort of sickness, right? You
Yep.
have someone who has a parent that's gone through that, auntie, uncle, cousin, whoever, or in all of us,
Child abuse.
almost
There's just so many
child
different
abuse
issues.
and,
Yeah.
and relationship problems. We're all trying to figure out how to make these relationships work with each other, and sometimes they're just destined to fail from the beginning. Whether it's the man's fault, the woman's fault, we're not here to blame anyone, but that's just what happens. And I think that's why Where Hearts Lie touched so many people, and it will touch even more people when it airs on Fox Soul December 18th. Tony, I want to ask you, just I want to get a little technical when it comes to making a film. You said this was your first time. You had to, you did everything with your money, with your funding, your time, on your
And I
dime,
went
on
over
your
budget.
yeah, it was on your time, on your dime. Just how was that process, getting your leading man, your leading woman, casting, directors, all these different things, camera equipment? Just what was that? Take me back to that time, and what was that like for you, an independent filmmaker, actually making a film all on your dollar?
Yeah, that there were a lot more steps to this than I thought. And you know what's funny is, typically, you know, most filmmakers, they start out doing like short films. You know, they're like 5 minutes to 15 minutes long, you know, things like that. But I just jumped right in.
Or they go to school for it or something, you know,
No,
like
right.
they have some formal education behind it or something.
And right. And I don't have the formal education behind it. I mean, I am an artist, and but I am very meticulous and technical. You know, I started with, we had an editor when we started the process, but you know, he had other obligations. So, you know, while he was editing the film, you know, I was learning. You know, as a director,
Wow.
I know what I want. So I'm telling him, this is what I want. I want to see it cut here, cut there. But during the process, I was like, man, listen, I learned how to edit,
Wow.
but from the beginning, you know, I first wrote an outline of the movie.
Mhm.
And what's funny is, I didn't even write the script until like a week before we shot.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's like picking out the team. You got to find a producer, you got to find an AD, assistant director, you got to do the casting. And this stuff can get very expensive. You got to do location scouting, you got to get PAs, you got to do the craft services, you know, the food, set everything up, you know, you got, man. But luckily, as a real estate investor, what's funny is, I used mostly my own properties for location shooting in the movie. Like Brave's apartment where he lives, that's me. That's my apartment. That's my crib.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
So you
awesome.
got to know how to, you know, pinch a penny where you can. And you know, the whole movie was pretty much shot in Brooklyn, in East New York, in my neighborhood. And you know, I'm very much into, I'm very community minded and community oriented. So I did get, you know, people from my community. You know, I hired people from my community to also work on the film as well. So I just think that we should always keep things in a community mindset. You know, I practice what I preach when it comes
Yeah.
to the upliftment of Black people and providing opportunities when I can. You know, and hopefully, you know, that will be reciprocated at some point in the future. But you know, I'm very encouraged. You know, this project, man, I really love it because you know I'm really proud of this work. You know, it took a lot of work, and I finally get to, you know, show this to the world the way that I want to show it and to my community. And I hope I make you all proud.
That's so awesome, Tony. That is so awesome. Once again, we're talking to Tony Lindsay, the writer, director, executive producer of Where Hearts Lie, and we'll get a feature debut on Fox Soul December 18th. Be sure to check that out. Tony, I want to get you out on this. Just talk to me about how your film was introduced to Fox Soul, working that out and getting it to finally air, and what's that relationship been like, and you know, if you have any plans for the future, what kind of that looks like as well.
Well, a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, Celicia Thompson, she's the one that actually brokered the deal, took the film over to Fox Soul. She's very established in the industry. She manages, she's a television producer. She manages Selena Johnson. Selena Johnson is her sister. And Selena's also on the soundtrack to the movie. And we actually have a really pretty good soundtrack. We got like songs with Akon, we got Selena Johnson, we got B.O.B.
You guys did it up for an indie film. You guys did it up for an indie film.
Yeah, we got, you know, we have it's a nice soundtrack. We got some good music. The score was done by Lauren Dawson. He's a man, this brother's talented. He's the husband of Terrell Hicks. Terrell Hicks, Keisha from Belly. I don't know if you probably, okay, yeah. Well, she's also in the film. Terrell is also in the film. Like, man, I just want to. I could not have done this on my own. You know, I did a hell of a lot of work, but it took a village. You know, and I just want, if I could leave anything with you guys, it's that we can accomplish anything that we set our mind out to accomplish, as long as we are diligent and we keep passion involved in it. And as a community, we have to, you know, be willing to trust each other, let our guard down and work together, because I'm telling you, man, it takes a village. It really takes a village. You can be the most skilled at whatever it is, but when you build a network with people that you trust and people who are like-minded and people of integrity, there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
You're absolutely right about that, Tony. Once again, we're talking to Tony Lindsay, the writer, director, and executive producer of Where Hearts Lie. Will debut on Fox Soul December 18th. Be sure to tune over to the Fox Soul YouTube page and check out Tony Lindsay's film, his directorial debut. It was awesome. I love the movie so much. Tony, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to speak with us and to promote this movie, because it is something, it's a different perspective, and I loved it so much, and I know the audience will too. Once again,
all black.
It's all black, all the time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe on your way out, and we will see you next time. Peace.